Hey everyone, this is the recap of part 2 of former Stoughton police officer Robert Devine's decertification hearing in relation to Sandra Birchmore. This part of the hearing includes Deputy Chief Holmes' testimony, although it was not completed. A huge section of this part of the hearing was a debate between the attorneys about information provided by the division that derived from certain exhibits. Honestly, I skipped that in my longer video, but I'll give you a short debrief on what it's about in this video. Okay, there were also some very juicy nuggets of information sprinkled throughout the entire testimony, and I'll highlight every single one of those in this video. So Robert Devine is being accused of having sex with Birchmore while on duty, and that, plus an alleged history of untruthfulness, abuse of power, conflicts of interest, and unprofessional conduct is being used to support the recommendation to decertify him. Devine was previously the deputy chief of the Stoughton Police Department, but was demoted back in 2015 following an internal investigation over his misuse of police resources for personal matters. Specifically, he had a subordinate look into his extramarital affair girlfriend who was, according to him, threatening him. Devine was demoted to patrol officer. After about a year, Brian Holmes stepped into that position as deputy chief, essentially replacing Devine. But like I said, it occurred after a considerable amount of time. There was also discussion in part 1 about a falling out between Holmes and Devine that centered around Holmes' opinion on adultery. It was assumed this occurred in 2015 during the investigation, but in part 2, when Holmes was being questioned, he actually said their social relationship ended in 2011, though we don't know exactly why. There's mention of Holmes seeing Devine as arrogant, and also reports that Devine was getting cozy with someone in the Explorers program, someone other than Sandra Birchmore. It was mentioned this individual was an adult, though. That being said, regardless of her age, it was inappropriate because Devine was in a position of authority. Holmes also discussed how Devine bailed on being a witness on behalf of the defense in a case involving a fellow police officer. It seems Holmes just was not a fan of that choice. Nonetheless, Holmes did mention he extended an olive branch to Devine back in 2017 or 18 after Devine's father passed away, and allegedly Devine accepted this olive branch. In this testimony, there's also mention of 2 other police officers somehow related to the Birchmore case, or I say police officers, 2 other members of the Stoughton department. Former Stoughton Animal Control Officer Joshua Heel, who, and this is coming from outside information, not the testimony, has been accused of having a sexual encounter with Birchmore and then lying about it. In September, it was announced he would never work in law enforcement again. He entered a voluntary agreement with the commission to let his Massachusetts license stay expired. Then there was mention of an Officer Dean Jenkins being interviewed related to Birchmore. I honestly haven't found anything online about that, but if you saw something, please let me know in the comments. We unfortunately do not get a lot of information about how Holmes came to the conclusion that Devine was actually Marty Riggs, the alleged alias used to talk to Birchmore over Facebook. A lot of it was redacted, but one thing they did let us hear was that Devine was in law school when he was an officer and had passed the bar recently. And information related to law school and the bar came up in the conversations between Marty Riggs and Birchmore, and this was used as contextual support for the conclusion that he was in fact Marty Riggs. That being said, another member of the Stoughton PD named Robert Kuhn, or Detective Robert Kuhn, became an attorney around the same time as well, and Devine's attorney jumped on that to highlight that the evidence in support of Devine being Marty Riggs wasn't that strong. Now, I did some digging myself to find out who this Robert Kuhn was, because personally, I wanted to know if I could figure out when he went to law school. I found a Robert Kuhn, and a lot of things check out that this is the Robert Kuhn, as mentioned in the hearing, and he actually did go to law school during the time the Sandra Birchmore situation was happening, but I want to be 100% sure before sharing that information, and I wasn't able to find a direct connection between this Robert Kuhn and the Stoughton Police Department. In addition, I don't know when Birchmore talked to Marty Riggs about law school, so things may not actually match up. We just don't have enough information to know. It would honestly be helpful if the defense attorney actually gave us some dates, but he has not done that yet. In addition, I don't know what additional evidence they used because it's all been redacted. All we know is this law school connection. So I'll leave it at that. But in general, the defense attorney is trying to cause doubt that Rob, as listed in various communications with Birchmore, is Robert Devine. He's trying to say that Rob is another Rob, also at the station. And weirdly enough, there are actually a lot of Roberts at the Stoughton Police Department. Also, Birchmore did not have this Rob's phone number, which is really annoying for all of this and all of us, because then we can't actually track a phone number to a person. The most interesting part of this testimony, in my opinion, was the fact that more details came out about the story regarding Devine's 8-year-old daughter apparently writing the word revenge on a piece of paper and then stuffing it into someone's mailbox. Holmes clarified it was actually his mailbox, and it turns out she didn't just write the word revenge, but she wrote, "Revenge is a meal best served cold," which makes the idea that an 8-year-old did this even more far-reaching. I was already speculative about just the word revenge, but revenge is a meal best served cold? I am very doubtful of this, unless that child is the next literary Einstein or something, and if that's the case, we should hear about her in the news. Anyways, so something did occur that helped the defense's case. It's that the attorney really emphasized the fact that the testimony of the witnesses during the internal investigation, whether it was recorded or written, was not included in the IA final report. And more specifically, that he never received them and that the post-commission also did not receive them. The defense argued that we can't really rely on Holmes's conclusion if we can't see the testimony, because maybe he picked and chose certain statements to support his already biased opinion of Devine. And I want to note that Holmes did not interview Devine, so he's not going off of his own memory, he's going off of somebody else's interview of Devine. And that's a huge part of the defense's argument, right? That Holmes was and is biased. So he essentially was highlighting the potential lack of credibility in Holmes's judgment and saying, we need access to the testimony to check his credibility. The judge ended up agreeing with him and requesting access to all the testimony of the interviews conducted during the 2021 investigation. There was also a huge debate between the attorneys about specific exhibits, whether the defense attorney received certain exhibits or information, and this debate actually involved none other than Cellbrite, but that's a whole side thing. A lot of it was redacted, so I just don't know the details, and again, it was just debating between the two attorneys, and it was very long, and I cut that out because I didn't see any point in us sitting there. But in the end, the defense attorney did not win that debate. So he won one of his arguments when it comes to the procedural aspect of this, the transcripts. He did not win the debate in regards to Cellbrite and the exhibits and the information produced. Now, I think that covers everything, or at least the big ticket items. But if you want more of the details, you should definitely watch the video where I discuss the hearing as it goes, because I go a bit more into detail on things and add more of my strategic analysis. Now, with that, we are done with the part 2 recap. And if you made it to the end, I'm really awkward with how I end these videos, so I'm going to try something new. If you made it to the end, I want you to comment an emoji with your favorite food or meal, because we have been discussing meals a lot, specifically meals served cold. So I want to see which one is your favorite. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time.